Sup peeps! Welcome to another episode of Trend News Channel. I'm your host, Johnny Awesome. Hope you are all well. Today we'll talk about a couple of topics. We'll start off with one of the most lucrative fights potentially going to happen ever in history. This fight is, you know what it's all about. Mayweather versus McGregor. So first of all, to start off this one, we have to realize that no boxer has ever gone against an MMA fighter before. But Floyd Mayweather is playing it safe because he's a smart guy, and he's fighting McGregor in an in a boxing ring. This is because McGregor basically has no professional boxing experience. All he was during his youth, he actually was an amateur champion of some sort in Ireland. But it is nothing compared to one of the probably best ever boxing champions of all time. He has been undefeated for literally 49 wins against really big champions. We're talking guys like Pacquiao. But there are a couple of problems coming up here. First one is obviously Floyd wants to fight for nothing less than $100 million fight, which is freaking insane. And McGregor is signed with the UFC, so Dana White, the UFC president, will obviously want some chunk of that money. So Dana actually offered Mayweather to go for a 25 million fight. So 25 for Mayweather, 25 for McGregor, and 50 million for the UFC. But Mayweather basically laughed it all and told him to basically go shove it, really. Because that guy's all about the money, and he's a smart guy. Will it ever happen? Potentially. There's a lot of financial incentive going on. There are negotiations going. And knowing that guy, he will probably want to win that fight. And he will make sure he wins that fight. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he got on McGregor when he had like some kind of injury or, wasn't in a great shape or after a loss. Because that's when Mayweather wants to strike, because he wants to have a certain win. And that's why he got a 49-0. Plus, if he gets going and wins this fight, he'll get a 50-0. He'll even beat Rocky Marciano's record. Pretty crazy if you ask me. The other topic we'd like to talk about is actually another boxing match, but this is a bit of a different one. It happened a couple of days ago. It was the Hayes fight versus a Bellew fight. So, coming up to the fight, these two boxers basically had the worst ever conference. Hayes literally punched the guy in the face in November. Heading up to the game, there was so much smack talk going on. Hayes is basically trying to make his comeback after a couple of losses. A lot of people are basically doubting him now because, he was a great fighter at some point, a great champ, but he's a former champ now. He's getting a bit older, a bit slower. He's trying to make a good comeback. Bellew, on the other hand, is a fighter who basically, he just fights for the hell of it. And even thanked Hayes for the fight because he literally wants money to feed his kids. Now, coming up to the fight, you wouldn't really expect much. But what was actually cool about it, I mean, not cool for Hayes, but kind of inspiring, you could say, is during the 6th round, after Hayes was leading the fight by points, he badly injured his Achilles heel. However, he did continue fighting, which is pretty insane. And, however, did lose that bout because his corner basically threw in the towel at the 11th round. It was nice to have some mutual respect between the two fighters afterwards because, we don't see that very often. And, there's a lot of trash talking. There's not so much respect. But, everyone went home kind of happy, you could say. It could have worked out better. I think if the fight would have gone to 12 rounds and Hayes wouldn't be injured, I think he would have easily gotten that fight. But, if you have any comments, check out comments below. That's what they're for. Finally, I'm going to talk about another article that I was reading, and it was about how London is not one of the greatest places to live in the UK. I was basically, they looked at the list and they took out a couple of criteria like housing, transport, green spaces, community, pays, and stuff like that. And surprisingly, London failed everything. They were doing horribly bad. Now, considering I'm a Londoner and I'll secretly like to protect and, argue for London, London has kind of, went out of the limelight, to be honest. It's still a very, very sought after city for for anyone who hasn't lived here and hasn't experienced the living conditions here. But I must admit, it's trailing behind in terms of living quality and living standards, because anything from, transport, getting stuck in the tube all the time, it's steamingly hot, it's not fun for anyone. And it's the best tourist place as well, because all the tourists just come in and act like they don't know anything, which, you kind of expect them to, but you have much less tolerance for that after a long day at work. Another thing to look at is the green spaces of London, which is usually the dodgy little guard-like areas, which you're not sure if you want to run there or get stabbed, Obviously, there's Richmond Park, but, that's like one place. There are other places. I'm not saying there are no green spaces in London, but I'm saying there are very few decent green spaces in London. Yeah, amongst other things, obviously time in transport, freaking ages, and housing prices are through the roof. It's crazy that, like, in this country, you need to pay literally a good solid 70% of your salary for rent. When I talk, like, I'm fortunate enough to work with people from different countries, and when I tell them that, oh yeah, I'm paying this amount for my rent, they're like, whoa. I'm paying that amount for literally everything. And what's left is just my money. I'm like, no. For me, what's left is my money. Everything else is my rent and bills. Pretty crazy. Anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Obviously, check out our blogs below. I'll put on the links. There are more things coming out. Like my Facebook page, like my Twitter page, like my everything page. Subscribe, you know what it is. Anyhow, have a good day, peeps. Peace out!